So it is day 8 in the Karen Read trial, and Alan Jackson took that day off to get ready for Jen McCabe. He is on fire this morning. He's been on 10 since he started, and he has not let up. Like, he is on her neck. He was ready to play today. Love the shenanigans. So he started out with the continuing with Cross, but he starts out talking about the fact that she was texting John, and then she would look out the window or out the door and see if she saw him or Karen. She saw him and Karen coming in, or, you know, that they were outside. So one of her last messages was around 12:45. He stated, well, did you still see them at the time? Well, I'm not sure if I saw them. I didn't, every single time I text, I didn't go look. But that was the pattern that she was doing. She was texting, then she was looking, she was texting, then she was looking. So he was like, well, if we're keeping up with this pattern that you said you had, at like 12:45, you were like, hello, were you looking out the window? Did you see them? And she's like, I don't remember that. Now, I don't think this came out the last trial. If it did, I don't remember it. But she called her sister at 5:07 a.m. And that would mean that her sister was awake, number one. And number two, that means that as soon as Karen called her and she hung up with Karen, that she called her sister. And the call is for 38 seconds. I don't remember that. She says that she didn't call her that early, but it does show a call record at 5:07, and she was calling her sister. So that means your sister wasn't asleep, and she would have known what was going on, because that call was right after you had spoken to Karen. What was she up doing? What happened for 38 seconds? Because I don't think there's a voicemail that was left, like it went to voicemail and you just left a voicemail. What was y'all talking about at 5:07 a.m.? Very interesting. Now, in some of the records, it states that she told Karen to come to her house, and not that Karen just popped up at her house. He asked her about that, and she's saying that she never said that, even though there are reports that say that she told Karen to come to her house, and not that Karen just popped up at her house, which would make more sense. Why would she know it would be okay to just pop up at your house? Y'all aren't that close. She didn't have your number. She had to call you through his niece, remember? So why would she just pop up at your house? Now, when her and Carrie took Carrie's daughter to Officer Lang's house, because Officer Lang's child and Carrie's child are friends, she's saying that they went straight to that house and just dropped, you know, her daughter off, and like that was it. But they actually made stops on the way there, and the phone records data being tracked shows that they made a stop and stuff. And she's like, I just remember going straight there. I don't remember making any stops. But why are we making it seem like y'all didn't have a relationship with this officer when you did? Regardless of what the level of that relationship was prior to the incident, there was a prior relationship before y'all got to, you know, this incident, and y'all just are at this man's house dropping kids off. Acknowledge that y'all is cool. It's really that simple. Now, we did get to these mysterious butt calls, and back in the day, that was absolutely a thing. But the way the technology moved, because it was something that we complained about when it did happen, they changed the way the phones were set up, so we didn't do butt dials. You can still accidentally call somebody, but you cannot, in any way, shape, or form, accidentally call somebody 7 times in 19 minutes. And so she was like, oh, well, maybe I just accidentally did it when I put the phone in my pocket. And he was like, but don't you have to, like, press certain buttons to actually end up making the call? Which you do. And she was like, well, maybe I was like texting and then it accidentally called him after I was texting. He was like, but don't you have to get out of the text app and then go to make, you know, another app to make the call? Well, no, you do. That is actually what they changed, because on them old phones back in the day, it used to have the call button on the side, so it would call whoever you called last by the butt dial. That's why they changed it. So now you have to go through all of these different steps to get to call somebody. So you can't accidentally call somebody 7 times in 19 minutes and not know you accidentally called them. It'll stay on the call when it hangs up. It'll show that you don't. And if you in and out of text messages on an iPhone, you would know that you had called that man. So yeah, that made that look so very. Why are we going through all of this like we don't use phones ourselves? Like, that's a lot you have to go through. Like, if I'm making up this is what I did, and I'm trying to excuse what I did, it have to make logical sense for other people. Like, could anybody else with an iPhone have made 7 calls to somebody in 19 minutes and not know it, and then be like, oh, well, maybe I was doing this, maybe I was doing that. You was on the phone then. So how you accidentally call him? It doesn't make sense. It has to make sense to the common person. It don't make sense, ma'am. And within this, Alan Jackson was getting annoyed with her because she was not answering questions at all that he was actually asking. And then when he was asking yes or no questions, she was not answering with yes or no. So he was like, can I have a sidebar, Your Honor? Can we approach? And she did correct Jen at that point. She's like, well, answer the question that's actually being asked of you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Because if he's asking you one question and you start answering a different question, man, we are derailed from where we're trying to go. Like, let's stay on track of this case. So when he tried to go into talking about the 227 search that shows up, he did not even go straight into it. He was just like, well, when you got to the house, what did you do? What were you looking up? And she kept trying to jump over a bit because she knew where he was going. Jump over it like, well, I didn't search this. I didn't ask you that. I asked you, what did you do when you got home, when you got upstairs? Like, because you said you did all of this other stuff that led to why you were doing the other searches that you did. I'm trying to get to that. And you're trying to go over what my actual point will be by jumping ahead. No, what did you say you did? Let's start there. So she was not having it. She was trying to hurry up and immediately go over that 227 with the I didn't do it. I was nowhere near in thought process to be searching it. Okay, but that's why I asked you what you did before we got to that. Let's stay there. Now, he did, of course, mention with the conversation with Carrie, he was like, well, did you tell her to say that she heard you before she went to that grand jury? And she's like, no, I didn't tell her that. And he was talking about the fact that they had spent this time with this notes being taken by her sister of recounts of their memory of what happened. And he asked her about her sister. He's like, well, is she here? And she's like, yeah, she's over there. He had her point out her sister. Embarrassed. I would have left the courtroom if I was her sister. I would have got up and just been like, girl, why you put me on Front Street? Why would you telling people I was in here trying to support you and you gonna point, well, she's over there. And I thought this was a beautiful take. He showed her the video footage of them at the house when, the emergency vehicles are getting there and they're having multiple different conversations with people, about what's going on and all of that jazz. And he asked her who is having more contact with law enforcement. And every time she would have to say me, of course, because she was the one who was talking to them the most. She was having more longer in-depth conversations with them than anybody else out there. And she was talking to multiple different law enforcement people out there when they are trying to, figure out everything that's going on. So she spent a lot of time talking to them on scene. And it's very obvious when he has her point that out that she is the one who's having the most contact with law enforcement. I thought that was a very brilliant evaluation of the scene from a perspective that they didn't go into that last time. And if you're not thinking about it and nobody points it out, you may miss it because she spent that much time talking to law enforcement. Yeah, so when the FBI comes to your house, why are you running? You spent all this time talking to law enforcement, you cool with everybody. Why was you running when they came to your house and say, we have a few questions? Yeah. It was a good point. So they are on lunch at this point, so we will see how this afternoon goes because I don't think he's done. He's almost wrapping it up. We still have redirect and recross, so we will see how that goes. But I don't see this ending with her today. She's probably going to be back on Monday at this point. So they did go ahead and finish up with Jen McCabe today. Thank goodness, because I didn't want to see her again on Monday. The Commonwealth got up to go over text messages that she had with other people that were like, oh my God, I'm so, I can't believe this happened. And I never would have expected this. Kind of like that to try and make it seem like there was no plot, no nothing that was going on behind the scenes. It didn't give that, but whatever you say, They really should not have been let in. The defense did object to them, and Auntie Bev, of course, said, I'll allow it. But it was, of all the messages that she sent, that was the best y'all could do to say, you know, oh, this implies nothing was going on. I'm sorry that this happened. I can't believe that happened. Duh, that should absolutely be some messages that should have been sent. That doesn't mean that something wasn't going on. I am not one of these conspiracy people that's like, you know, oh, they did this whole big plot or whatever. But that saying, you know, oh, I can't believe this happened, does not immediately trigger nothing was going on. So it was kind of like, it just kind of gave the energy of reach. Let's just leave it at that. It gave the energy of y'all's reaching. And then Alan Jackson got up to do his recross, and he was going down the line of, you know, he's harping on this FBI stuff. And he was like, well, when you were talking to them, you paused the interview for this 10-minute, that little 10-minute thing she did, because you went and needed to go talk to all these different people. And she's like, but I did talk to them. I was welcoming to them. I welcomed them into my home. And then whenever, you know, they asked me to speak to them later on, I did speak to them. And he was like trying to go down his questioning, and she interrupted him and was like, you know, I think I cleared up a bunch of the confusion that they had, and I did such a good job that they are no longer investigating. Okay, so she thinks that she is the reason that the FBI is no longer investigating. I really hope, all my heart, I really hope somebody understands the verbiage that they are using to understand it's the FBI, and kind of be like, why was the FBI involved? Because they can't directly say that. So I really hope they're paying attention to the clues that he was providing to make sure that they were aware that it was the FBI involved, and have full discussions about that when they get back to deliberate. I absolutely hope they are listening to those key words, that it was the FBI. So they were done with her after that, and then the next witness on the stand was the 13th witness, was Hannah Knowles, and she's a forensic scientist. After Jennifer, I really have to be honest, child, I was sleepy. I was ready to go to sleep. It's raining here in Texas, and I wanted a nap. So I was half listening to this woman, so I had to go back and re-listen. The only point that they brought her on is to say that when the Good Samaritan Hospital did the blood test on Karen, they sent it over to her lab, and her lab is accredited, and Good Samaritan is not accredited for forensic work. That was the gist of the story of her testimony from the Commonwealth and then the defense side. So that was pretty much all they were bringing out. She went over her results and kind of explained, you know, her process and how they do their work at her lab. And Yannetti got up from the defense to just kind of, you know, break down the fact Good Samaritan is not accredited in the type of work that you do. And so the work that they provided to you is only as good as what they provided to you. And she's like, correct. They're not accredited, and the work that I did and my calculations are only as good as the work that they did. And then Auntie Bev was ready to go. So they did end a little early today. I don't even think they made it to 4 o'clock daytime, and normally that's about her cutoff time is 4 o'clock. It was before then. She was ready to go. Understandable, because I was ready to go too. So they did go ahead and release the jury. She did tell them that they needed to be prepared to have full days next week, but we know what full days look like for them. So, but she did go ahead and let them go, and that was that. Now, before the 13th witness came on the stand, they did go ahead and play these little clip interludes that they've been playing. This is so randomness to me. I'm so over them. But in this clip, it was just pretty much Karen talking about the grieving process, realizing that she was in grief, and the reality of grief kind of setting in, and that was it.